You ever notice how fast conflict can feel like a competition? So you're not just disagreeing, you're trying to win?
It's not just about resolving which way the toilet paper roll goes. It's about your identity, your worth, your value.
It goes over. And the deeper truth here is conflict isn't the issue, it's disconnection. So when we feel threatened, we move from being teammates and partners to being adversaries.
But here's the shift. When we learn how to negotiate conflict appropriately, we can actually turn it into greater connection and understanding.
In this video, we're going to break down why conflict feels threatening, why it feels like a 911 moment, even when it isn't.
And how our inner conflict promotes outer conflict. And then we'll give you some relational intelligence tools to bring you back to connection.
Hey everyone, we're Jeff and Ellen. We're life and relationship coaches. And for the last 2 decades, we've been helping people show up better in relationships. And nowhere is that more important than in conflict.
Conflict is in all things. You can't avoid it. It exists naturally. You see it amongst animals have conflict. All relationships are going to have conflict.
You're going to have conflicts with your children, with your partner, with your parents,
With your neighbor.
You have personal conflict, you have professional conflict because it's in the workplace.
Inner conflict. And so conflict is actually a natural part of life. So trying to remove it or avoid it will never work. Actually, you'll just try to control life, and that's a battle you're never going to win. So let's take a deeper look at how we learn to negotiate conflict and why we become so avoidant sometimes.
I think it stems from childhood because we learned how to negotiate difference or the contrast with another human being in our childhood home. When we're negotiating with our parents who are older, bigger physically,
they have all the power,
emotionally more advanced. Yeah, they have so much power, and as children we don't have it. So it's a no-win situation here. And so dealing with conflict, we are either going to engage with the parent, not a winning solution, or we relent. And
we're going to learn the parent is actually going to give us the cues on what it means and how to deal with conflict. So if we have a parent that avoids conflict at all costs, they're going to pass on oh my God, conflict is awful. Stay away from it at every chance you get. And they're also not going to teach you the skills you need on how to deal with it. So first, they're not going to teach you that it's okay. And second, they're not going to teach you when it does show up, here's what you do. So you're not going to build your confidence around conflict.
And so you might be more avoidant in conflict because that's how it was handled in the household. And you saw that approach worked. And so you grew up learning maybe we should avoid conflict because really bad stuff happens. And if mom and dad are avoiding it, maybe I should too.
But then if you had parents who didn't handle conflict well, but certainly got into it a lot and were constantly challenging you, or you watched them challenge the other parent or other siblings, or even how you heard them talk about other people in the community or other family members, now you can see someone getting really worked up in conflict, becoming very threatening to your nervous system and to your survival instincts, and yet you are powerless to stop it. And if you try and stop it, it actually grows the conflict. It doesn't actually diminish the conflict.
So for some children, they viewed their parents engaging in conflict where it was increasing the energy, coming at things, and knowing that, hey, I saw my parent overcome another human being, becoming bigger and more threatening, and that was a good tactic. Then there's a part of you that like, hey, that's how you handle a conflict, is you get big, loud. And so that becomes a tactic.
And then if you grew up in a household where conflict led to physical violence, abuse, throwing things, then your nervous system can really get wired to avoid conflict. Same thing then when you grow up and you go out into society, if you had teachers or schoolmates who, when you got into conflict, it's not a fair fight. They're not thinking about you. It's about dominating or winning, and you don't have the skills to negotiate it. It can become very threatening really quickly.
So the take-home point is, what is your embodied stance towards conflict? It's either avoiding conflict and the actions that promote that, or engaging in conflict and the skills that adopt towards that point of view. So your childhood experience of conflict, jumping ahead a couple decades into adulthood, now this is the way you relate to conflict and how you engage in conflict in your adult relationships. So now let's talk about internal conflict. It's important to know what's going on not just externally between you and the other person, but what's happening inside of you. If you're not aware of that and that energy, you're not aware of how that's contributing to the outer conflict.
So sometimes I will carry these low levels of anxiety into my workday. And if I'm not aware of that and I come into the office to work with Jeff and he wants me to do something that really challenges my competencies, for instance, that creates stress, and that low level anxiety actually is inner conflict happening. It's like, oh shit, like I have to do this thing and I don't want to do this thing. But if I'm not aware of it, I won't talk about that. I won't say to Jeff, whoa, can we just pause? Because, wow, that's really bringing up my insecurity and I just need to manage that for a second.
You're already primed.
I'm already primed for conflict. Instead, I'm going to lash out at Jeff and I'm going to point something and I'm like, what do you mean we have to do this? Or, no, you do this piece. And conflict is actually arising between us, but it started in my own self first.
For me, I may have a bunch of stuff on the go, trying to do lots of things in a day. And so my to-do list is quite long and I'm juggling so much things I can do, I don't have time to do. And with that internal conflict and the judgments that go with it, like, come on, I should be doing this. Oh, I'm falling behind. And all these evaluations, all these scripts is causing this kind of inner turmoil, which, because it's been happening for years, it's kind of just going underneath the radar.
So practiced and rehearsed.
But my bandwidth, I'm like so close to threshold anyway. And many of us are, because we're so busy and so overloaded and overwhelmed. We're so close to our threshold anyway that I also am primed so that when Ellen says, hey, can we just do one more thing? I'm ready to explode because I'm kind of gunpowdery in those moments. And so this inner conflict that we bring to our other relationships is what can cause the problems. And this is with partnership. It could be dealing with your parents. It could be in explosions with your neighbor or just some out of the blue on a Tuesday at work. And afterwards we realize, why did I react the way I did? It's because we have unresolved inner conflict.
And if you're not aware of it, then you're going to be arguing to solve something that actually isn't the problem. And then that's why conflict becomes something you don't want to do anymore, because it seems like no good comes of it, just more and more conflict comes from conflict. And so it's really important to actually take a moment to check in and go, okay, what am I bringing? And when did I first start experiencing feelings of conflict?
And so a key relational intelligence concept is self-awareness. If I am more self-aware of what's going on inside of my body, then I know what I'm bringing to the table in all my interactions. So being more tuned in to your inner landscape, the emotions that's happening inside you, you can start conversations that way. And it might sound something like this. I'm kind of maxing out already. Like I'm busy today already, and I feel ungrounded. Can we take a few minutes to talk about that?
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. I want you to feel good in this interaction.
It's a way for us to talk about what's happening inside me before we negotiate any outer conflict or deciding what we're doing for dinner or anything like that.
Because if you want to stir conflict fast, just point the finger at the other person and blame them, and bam, conflict a la mode. So because in conflict, it moves us apart or disconnects us from the other person, we have to find ways to disrupt that and bring us back to connection. So here are a few things you can do. One is to slow down. When we're in conflict and our fight or flight response is going off, it actually has us speeding up. It has us talking faster, moving faster, wanting to get out of there faster. And that actually adds to the energy in the room in a negative way. It just builds the conflict. So then we need to slow down.
When we are going too fast, we're actually missing why we're going fast. It's fast for no reason. And when we're going fast, we're missing what's happening below the waterline. We're so running around with impulse.
And you can't see what's out there. It's like being on a bullet train and trying to take in the details of the scenery as you go by. You can't do it.
If we're going fast, not only can I not take in Ellen and understand what her pain is, I don't understand what's going on for me. And so the reactions are coming out and I'm almost working on autopilot. So slowing down your conflict is so crucial. It's to do the opposite of what we feel is necessary. So the engine might be revving. We may want to speed things up because we want conflict to go away. But the real antidote is to slow things down and give the conflict the time it needs, which is we're going to take time and talk this out so both people have their say.
And sometimes it can be helpful even to have a code word or a word that, remember, we got to slow down. And so you could use yellow light, or we use quicksand, because we know if we keep doing this, we're going to sink pretty quickly underneath the sand.
Even with our son, sometimes we may just say, hey, teammate, to let him know we're on the same team here. Hey, partner. Hey, pal. Can we slow things down? And by requesting that we slow things down, because we both want to be heard. You know, I want to hear you, you want to hear me.
Yeah, we might say to him, can we slow it down? Because we can see where we're heading and it's not good. And we want to stay in good places with you. So can we slow it down so I can really understand what's happening here, what's happening with you, what's happening with me, and we can change the trajectory of where we're going?
Because conflict includes two nervous systems, both nervous systems are being activated, it's important that each nervous system gets the attention and the time it needs to process and ground, to come down off of the DEFCON 5 alarm bells. And so you and the other person have to have time to speak. So getting back to connection is giving the time that we need to talk out the issue, so we can talk about our emotions and the needs that are not being met here, and that you get to talk about your emotions and the needs that are not being met in this interaction, so that we can both hear each other, so we can both find a way back to each other.
I like to think of it as when I'm in fight or flight and my shoulders are up, it's blocking my ears, I can't hear anything. So if I want to be able to take in anything and hear my partner and hear Jeff, I need to calm my nervous system first, and then I can be more available to hear things. I'm sure you've had that experience where you've had an argument and then you go away and you do something else, and then you come back and you're now more regulated and you're feeling better, and then you go into re-talk about it again and you think you've entered into a whole new conversation because you're hearing things for the first time even though they were already said. And that's what happens when our nervous system gets activated. It really disrupts our ability to take in information. Fight or flight isn't designed to go deeper and hear and understand. It's designed to just save our hide, and it's not about meaningful conversations. It's about, I need to either fight or I need to get out of here.
That's a good point. When conflict arises, sometimes instead of getting into the conflict, we take a bit of a break to calm down, to self-regulate before we have the ability to co-regulate with each other. And so taking a break when you know that the temperature is really high, and a break is a short break. It's like 20, 40 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a few hours, but it's not, putting it off till next weekend to talk about it. So, which
means the most important thing in the whole process is you have to be able to spot the conflict. If you aren't able to spot when conflict is happening, then you won't be able to use any of the tools or anything that would change the trajectory. And it gets harder and harder to spot the conflict when you're deep in it and really triggered. So step one actually is to train yourself to just spot conflict in its earliest occurrences.
So to sum up, here's what you can try today. Number one, name the inner conflict. Take the time to know what you're bringing to the table and address that so you can see the conflict from a mile away.
Second one is to use a slow word. Something that reminds you that I need to slow down, we need to slow down, because the natural tendency of conflict is to go faster, and too fast means a lack of understanding.
And number 3, take the time that this conflict needs. When we rush through conflict, we miss and solve problems that aren't there. Take the time to understand each other so both people feel understood and validated. So remember, most conflict is not about the topic at hand. It's about two nervous systems that are in survival mode.
The opposite of conflict isn't silence, it's understanding.
If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel.
And thank you for giving us your attention.
And check out this next video.